Oh,
Yeah, Coach.
where we at?
To your right, Coach.
Right here.
I believe this is your 15th season being the primary play caller for an offense. I'm curious or who you go to study or what you go to study to remain innovative as a play caller.
Oh, well, that's a good question. We've all got friends in this business that we talk to on a regular basis that are coaching, trying to stay fresh and new with how you do things. Football is football. We're really running very similar plays that we ran 27 years ago when I started coaching. It might be just out of different formations and different personnels and using different guys. Then I rely on coaches that have coached me that have had a lot of experience. Coach Rick and Coach Donnan. Coach Donnan, who I played for and then worked for, and then Coach Rick, who I worked for a long time. I've got a lot of experience, so you lean on guys with experience. My own dad will be at practice today. He was a coach a long time. I ask his opinion about how things looked and what we're doing, but I tell the players all the time, you've never arrived, you're always learning, and that goes for us as coaches too. We're always trying to find new ways to do things, not necessarily new, but ways to do things better where we can be efficient on offense.
Mike, kind of following on those same lines, every coach, as they go along the business, adapts, as they go along. Are you surprised at some of the ways you've adapted over time?
Me and Coach T-Rob were talking about it, earlier, back in the day, the game may have been a little bit simpler. It was a little more physical, but you've got to adapt. The game is played in space nowadays, but you still, I don't want to adapt so much that we don't lose our physicality as an offense and what this program's built on and what Coach Smart's built it on is toughness and physical on offense. So, you want to be, innovative and play the game in space and try to be explosive. You've got to be explosive on offense nowadays, but at the same time, you don't want to lose your physicality as an offensive unit, and that's something we pride ourselves on, and it's a staple of what Coach Smart's been here since been here at the University of Georgia.
Mike, looking at Carson, what is the biggest difference you see in him right now compared to this time last year going through fall camp?
I see a guy that is trying to have a sense of urgency every day about everything he does and not taking anything for granted. He wrote a bunch of things on our board in our meeting room of what we need to do as a quarterback, and number one was be where your feet are. And you hear that a lot, but here's a guy that, had a good season, his first season, and there's a lot of noise outside, this building, about the future, but he can't control that. What he can control is, being where his feet are every day. And in the meeting that we're going to go to here in less than an hour, it's going to be an install, but it's not going to be a new install for him. It's going to be a lot of things that he's heard over the 4 to 5 years that he's been here, but he's going to be locked in, being where his feet are, paying attention. There might be one little nugget today that is a little bit different than last year, or something that's going to help him be better at whatever play we're installing. So I think he's got a really, really good mindset of focusing every day and controlling what he can control and getting better. Because last year's last year, tomorrow's tomorrow. The most important thing is today, and that's a hard thing to do. That's a hard thing to do for me, and I'm 50. But we've got a head coach that's going to stress that daily. Of the most important thing is our meeting here in a minute with the players, and then how we go out there and walk through, how we go out there and do stretch, how we do everything on a day-to-day basis. And he's doing a good job of that.
How you doing, Mike?
Hey, Chip.
Can you tell us about the progress of your backup center? I think his name's Drew Bobo.
He's hell on wheels.
Is he? And kind of on the end of that. I mean, I understand maybe your starters had some issues here lately. Can you update us on that? But sincerely, coaching your son, it's I'm sure there's an interesting dynamic there.
Yeah, Jared has missed some things, but he's got to do as much as possible. It's always, that's a very important position, offensive line and the offensive unit. They communicate, really to everybody what goes on up front. And Jared's still being able to do that. A large majority of what we're doing, we're just being careful with Jared, but it also gives guys more opportunities to work at center. And and make those calls. We lost a 4-year starter in Sid Van Brand that has made the calls 100 times and confident making those calls and communicating. So everything we do from walk through to practice is an opportunity for those centers, if Jared's not getting work, to make those calls and communicate with those other guys. And it's probably more important this year because we've got so many young linemen that, might not be able to hear the call and know what they got. And a lot of times, that center's got to pass everything down the line and make the call front side and back side for those guys. And it's a little bit uncomfortable for guys like Drew, but the only way they're going to get comfortable is keep doing it and putting them under those pressure situations.
Hey, Mike.
Art.
Looks like you should have a really good offense if you base it on this college football playoff or college football video game. Is that a good indicator of what you guys are going to do this year?
I don't know. The only video game I ever played was Tecmo Bowl and Super Tecmo Bowl, which is a lot better. A couple times I sat down with my son and Jake and Drew, and they were playing when we had some time off over the summer, and it's amazing, the plays, the concept of defense, and there's a lot of good things in there of my son's trying to, battling for the quarterback job at Prince and sitting down and seeing, what the defense does and making decisions. But, I'd go with Tecmo and Super Tecmo Bowl. I always played with the Oilers. Warren Moon was hell, and then Chris Dishman on defense. He could pick up off about anything on Tecmo Bowl.
With a player who's got a skill set like Arian does, unique skill set there, just what are the different things you do on a daily basis, on game days, to best utilize that?
Well, on a daily basis, I get to spend a lot of time with Arian. He's definitely a big special teams player for us, and that's been a big role for him. But a lot of times he's repped so many things in special teams, I get to have him during those special teams periods and really work on techniques of running certain routes. We're not running full speed all the time, but talking about routes and body control, working on the deep ball, adjusting to the deep ball with our eyes, not necessarily running, a full speed post or a full speed go. But anytime you got a guy like Arian or anybody that's got speed, track speed, when they're on the field, sometimes, you might not see the impact they have on a play because we might not have gone to, but I guarantee you that defense knows when number 11's on the field because of the speed and the ability to make not just a 20-yard explosive, but he's a guy on your team that could have a 70-yard explosive at any time. And the thing with Arian, we're just trying to be consistent every day. Here's a track guy that, played track, I believe, his first 2 years, was injured a lot before I got here, knock on wood, and is trying to be consistent and being an overall receiver. He's a really good kid and works extremely hard, and we're excited he's back this year.
Yeah, Coach, over here to your right.
You're right. Okay.
Coach Smart's mentioned a couple times how you've kind of challenged Carson to be a little bit more excitable when good things happen on the field. Why was that so important for him to grow in that area this offseason?
Well, first of all, I want Carson to be himself. Okay, Carson can't be Coach Bobo. He can't be Coach Smart. But the nature of the position and what you play, you're the leader of the offense, and a lot of times a leader of the team, and his actions and his body language speak volumes to guys. It could be getting on somebody's ass, or it could be encouraging somebody. I still want it to be him. He has a great trait that he has such an even temperament. Whether we score a touchdown or we go 3 and out, or he happens to throw a pick or something. His temperament doesn't change. That allows him to stay calm in the moment, and that's one of our core DNA traits is composure. And I think he has great composure. But also, his position and his job is to enhance the play of others. He's going into his second year. Last year was a first-year starter. We're trying to get him off on solid ground, as the season went on and gain confidence. And he has confidence. There's things he's got to work on, but he's a confident young man. He's got to instill that confidence in the players that are around him. And it could be it could be a word to them. It could be putting their arm around them. Knowing the impact that he has on guys, because, these young guys that are coming in are first guy that walks on that field for the first time. They're looking at a guy, Carson Beck, that has done it in SEC games, done it on a big stage, and they're going to look for him to how to act and how to respond. And what he says and what he does goes a long way in building belief in our football team.
Mike.
Yes.
Curious about tight ends and how you think they've evolved. Is it more the way they are themselves, personnel, or is it more the usage? Because obviously, when you were here, you had Orson Charles, Aaron White, Artie Lynch, guys like that. Is it more how they're being used, or is it that they are different?
No, I think it's a little bit more how they're being used in today's game. You see more tight. Those Orson Charles. He didn't even know how to get in a stance when he got here. Aaron White was a receiver in high school. So a lot of these kids, even if it was 20 years ago or now, these guys were big receivers in high school, and their frame's going to allow them, to put on weight and be a tight end. And again, the game is space, so they're probably playing in space more, using tight ends to, the last guy we had. I mean, we're handing him the ball on jet sweeps. We're putting him in the backfield, put him down, throwing the screens to him, and obviously using him downfield vertically and running option routes and stuff like that. I think they become valuable because of matchups that they can create. Your running backs and your tight ends create matchups on linebackers and safeties that gives you an advantage some. Now, I think football's evolving more and more where tight ends are getting more and more into the core. You look at the game at the next level, you see them playing 12, 13 personnel, tight ends and hands in the dirt, and they're running counters and powers, not just cutting off on the backside. And our offense is a little bit more where we're going to ask the guy to do everything, where some offenses nowadays are just totally spread guys. I think here at the tight end position, you're going to learn how to play in the core. You're going to learn how to move as to be an H-back, so to speak, and you're going to learn, when we split you out and how to run routes. So we try to do it all and have a big volume of offense. And, all positions for us offensively, it takes a lot of learning. We put a lot on them, but that position in particular, because it's the run game and the pass game that they're heavily involved in, takes a guy that's extremely bright.
Hey, Mike.
Hey.
Can you talk to us about your backup quarterbacks? How did the Jaden Rashada transfer come about? What have you seen in Gunnar Stockton and Ryan Puglisi, a few days into camp? Can you talk about those guys?
Yeah.
And then would you also mention your 3 transfer wide receivers and what you've seen from those guys?
Okay. Well, the quarterback position, how Jaden came about, y'all coaches on record that we wanted 4 scholarship quarterbacks, and, we've been looking for 4 scholarship quarterbacks, and we had to, because of the portal, we were able to get Jaden. We'd love to got Jaden, our portal quarterback, Jaden in here before spring. It didn't work out that way, but he was here, able to get here early May and try to learn the playbook, and he's in the process of learning it now. All those guys are doing an outstanding job, every day of coming in and controlling what they can control. Okay, and Carson made a great statement in our first meeting, and we try to set the tone. He said, "I want to say something to you guys. I want you, you need to take this camp like you're getting ready to play Clemson the first game." I didn't do that when I was young. I wasn't taking advantage of every opportunity, to get ready to be the starter. And that's an easy thing to say, rather than do. And I've been saying it for 27 years, coaching quarterbacks. You're getting ready to play. Your opportunities every practice. But then Carson to step up and say that in a meeting and stop me mid-meeting and say that to those young quarterbacks that, hey, guys, you're getting ready to play Clemson in that first game. That's how you should approach it. And those guys have done a great job of that this camp. I don't even know what practice we're on. I think 7, but they're doing a great job of preparing every day and going out there and learning from their mistakes and learning from the things that they do well. The receivers, Colby Young, London, and Michael Jack have done a nice job. All 3 were here in the spring, so that helps the transition when you're able here to go through the spring and 30 plus days of a practice and then a walk through a practice and a walk through and then all summer. These guys are now at the place in their job where they can actually compete. In spring, they're just trying to figure out how to line up. I'm running this route, and it's kind of they're running it like it looks on the playbook. Now they're able to line up faster, and they're able to be coached more on technique of what we're trying to do on each particular play.
Mike, what do you recall about the first time you saw Ben Urasek on film, and how is what you saw then kind of translated to the practice field so far?
You saw Ben make plays on the perimeter. You saw Ben make plays downfield. What I've seen of him now, I've seen those things. I see him getting another guy that didn't go through spring practice. They got here in May, but he didn't go through spring practice. So he's a little bit behind, but he's very intelligent. He's done a great job of continuing to get in a playbook, and we're asking him to do things that maybe he didn't do at Stanford. I've seen him accept that challenge. He's not worried about getting uncomfortable, meaning, if he doesn't do something well, he's going to work at it, and you don't see him making the same mistake twice, which is a good thing. And, anytime you add depth to your program is a good thing. And, here's a guy that's played a lot of football. He's just, he's here trying to figure out how we do it the Georgia way now, and done a nice job so far.
Mike, what have been your impressions to this point of this running back room, and what stands out to you about them?
Well, we have more depth than we had last year at this time. We were dealing with a couple of injuries in camp. We've got more depth at that position, which allows, one, we're not wearing down our guys. We're able to space out the reps, which you got to always be careful of. But you see a group of guys that pay attention to Coach Crawford. They don't mind being coached hard. And they're picking it up day by day. But you see guys that do a good job in the run game, but have traits in the passing game, which what you look for in a running back. So all those guys have done a nice job and continue to work, and pleased with that room.
Yeah, with Dylan Bell and him, not having to move around to help you guys out at running back as much this year, how have you seen him grow this offseason as he's been able to focus more on playing wide receiver?
Yeah, and really you don't really get into your personnel and moving guys around until really you're through camp mode. Right now we're still installing. We're on day 7 of our install, and in human nature you want to start moving guys around to try to, maybe win the drill or put your guys. But at the end of the day, we're trying to teach offense, and Dylan has nearly almost 100% been working at the receiver position. And Coach Coley has really done a nice job teaching him the finer points of route running and execution. And, this little things, playing with pad level, working your releases off press, and just becoming a complete receiver. Dylan did a great job for us last year making contested catches, which is awesome. But we're working on trying to create more space, and how to create more space, because a lot of times he is our X receiver, and he's in the boundary. If you're in the boundary in this league, you're not going to get any off coverage. You're going to get press, and how do you handle press? How do I beat press? Really working on the finer points of winning one-on-one battles.
Yeah, Coach, I know it's only 7 practices through camp, but what's something about this offense that you feel comfortable about, or you feel positive about, that you are going to be really good at? And maybe what's an area of this unit that you feel needs, improvement before the opening week?
Well, not necessarily scheme, but our identity yet. I think we're still forming our identity as an offense. But one thing I feel really good about us as an offense, I think we have connection as an offense, and I think that's important. And we've been connected when practices or drills have gone good or they've gone bad. We've addressed it, and nobody's flinched in that room when they've been challenged to respond, whether it's during the practice or in the meeting the next day. There hadn't been any pointing fingers, and I think that's always good, because you want connection in that room. It's going to take everybody in that room. So that's something, obviously, another DNA of ours, of Coach Smart's, is connection. But it's one thing to say it, it's another thing to live it. And the leadership in that room has done that. And I think our offensive line, you've got so many guys coming back that have played so much ball and have been through so many camps. They're leading the way of showing these guys, not necessarily linemen, but the whole team, how to come to practice, every day ready to go. There's a ton of things, Brooks, that we got to continue to improve on. We're not near ready to play, and that's okay. That's part of camp. We're still trying to form our identity, and that will shape out even more after we have the first scrimmage, and coaches are kind of back and guys are out playing ball, and then we'll go through the second scrimmage, and we'll kind of, we're going to have a big volume of offense, and we're going to install it, and then we're going to shrink it down and figure out, what we do best. And maybe we're not as good at this as we were last year, so not mean we take it out. We're going to put it to the side, continue to work on that, but we're still trying to figure that out as an offense what we do really well and what we got to work on. Right now, in my mind and those players' minds, we got a lot to work on every day. There's nothing we do well.
Time for one more question. To go back to Carson, you mentioned there's some things he can improve on. Going back to like even end of last season or the spring, what are some things that maybe you identified that he can get better at, and how did you work on them?
Well, I mean, one, he does a great job of processing, getting the ball out quickly, and I don't remember what his completion percentage was. It was extremely high last year. The one area, that we addressed in spring and at the beginning of fall camp is, the deep ball, and not necessarily the deep ball doesn't necessarily always need to be the perfectly thrown ball when you hit the guy in stride. Sometimes we want it to be that way as a quarterback, but it's a lot just giving the guy a chance. Not throwing the ball so far we don't have a chance or throwing it out of bounds. Give the guy a chance to make a play, and he's done a better job of that. And every time we complete a deep ball, it's he's looking at me or looking at Coach Gummy because he knows that's what he's focused on, giving those guys a chance. And then sometimes when you struggle hitting something or doing something as a quarterback, you start to aim and you're thinking about it too much. Take your drop, read your progression, throw the ball, and play football, and not get in your head of, I can't hit it, I'm trying to aim it or throw the perfect ball. Throw it and give the guy a chance.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, guys.